So, welcome everyone. We have Tore Necromorbus on the channel today as part of Black Metal Legends. You might know him as the drummer of early Funeral Mist. He's also got his own studio, Necromorbus Studio, where bands like Vartane, Mayhem, and Behexen have recorded there and had their music engineered there. He's also the live sound engineer for both Vartane and Mayhem, so he's got quite an epic CV. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of Black Metal Legends. And one thing I really want is the drummer's perspective. And also, it's really great to have you here to provide some perspective for everyone who's watching your channel, what to look out for on recordings, how to behave yourself in the studio, and how to come across professionally when you're working with engineers. So, yeah, thank you so much, and welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Who are your big drumming inspirations, and what got you into playing drums?
I always kind of gravitated towards drums as an instrument, as something I was always interested in, and um, I borrowed a kit from my brother's friend, so that's kind of how I got a bit into it, and I was just playing along with records like Beatles records and Halloween and like things like very diverse. Um, I It got a little bit more serious when I started like seventh grade and I started doing more like ensemble playing with other people, and it just progressed from there. Um, yeah.
When it comes to like your like metal drummer inspirations, who are they?
Um, well, very early on, I would say Ringo Starr for sure. As I said, I was playing along with Beatles records, and it was something that kind of really got me started. His drumming is not like overly complex or anything, so it was like a good way to get into it. Um, Eventually, when I got more into like playing metal, well, very early on, it was like Metallica, so Lars Ulrich, even though people say he's not very good, but I think he did some very interesting things back in the days. So it was like that. The Halloween drummer, definitely. Can't remember his name. It's really weird. Unfortunately, it's dead. Um, Steve Ashame from D Side, big inspiration. Same with Gene Hoglan. Pete Sandoval to some degree, I would say. Um, Hellhammer for sure. Um, Drummer of Sadus, can't remember his name either, but yeah, I think that kind of it's a lot of drummers, but that's kind of what where I kind of picked up a few things at least.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great. And I I'm one of those people where when I'm listening to metal music and playing in a band, I'm always kind of focused in on the drummers, especially what they're doing because I was speaking to Nocturnal Culto about this, and a riff is always a riff, but a riff can be changed into so much with the drums. Why do you think guitarists need to listen to the drummers? For someone who's maybe not too familiar with working in projects and with groups, because I've had some people say to me, "Why should I listen to the drums if I'm a guitar player?" And I think that's one of the strangest things I've ever heard. So I just want your perspective on it.
I can say because this has a lot to do with how things work nowadays with especially when it's guitar players writing music. Uh, Back when we started out, it was you wrote riffs, maybe you recorded it on a tape recorder, and you just had a tape with riffs. So it's very open. So when it was presented to the drummers, uh, it was an open field. You kind of probably had some direction at least, but it wasn't very kind of decided. And what's happening now is that people do basically demos from start to scratch and then present that to the rest of the band. And the drummers, if they don't have very much imagination, they might just play exactly what is programmed. Uh, and it really takes away the personality. So there's so much less of this kind of cooperation in a band nowadays. Um, so that is something that when I work with productions, when I'm working with bands and we're preparing for recordings, I always tell them like try to present the music, but don't present like the drums. Don't send it like pre-programmed. Just send with a click track or whatever, and just have the drummer kind of work out the beats. So yeah, I think like I said, it's a problem nowadays. It's very unfortunate. I really hope that we can get out of it, but I don't have high hopes.
Okay, yeah, I can understand because it seems like everyone's kind of gone more introverted when it comes to making music now. It's usually just like one person doing everything. And I find it so much less fun writing by myself than with other people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You're not bouncing off any ideas with anyone. Maybe to some degree, I'm sure, but it's very much like a solitary process for many people,
For
definitely.
sure. And then talking about collaboration, like let's dive into like early Funeral Mist. So how did Funeral Mist actually start, and what was the writing process like for Devilry?
The band started. I wasn't in the band from the start, and I don't even think Ariok was. There was some guys from the south of Stockholm. They came over, recorded a demo, which is basically what I consider to be the first official recording that I did in the studio, even though I had been like experimenting with stuff before. But it was the first thing that kind of got released, even though it was just a demo. But it was kind of a big thing for me. Sidetrack. So they fired their drummer and they asked if I wanted to join. So I did that. Shortly after that, the guitar player started playing with Dark Funeral and got very involved with that. And the other guitar player was, I don't know, he was kind of weird anyway. So it ended up with just me and Ariok rehearsing together, and the first thing, which is what turned into the Havoc demo, was actually supposed to be his side project. But he decided last minute to just basically put the Funeral Mist logo on it, and no one objected to it anyway. So that's how that happened. And after that, we started working on Devilry, which also has some stuff from the old from the demo recordings. Uh, yeah, so we were just rehearsing all the time because we didn't have anything else to do, basically.
All right, cool. So was it just like very, very organic, just like being in the studio and just creating together and just bouncing off ideas?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the thing is that Arya, I would say is he's a bit he's very determined with how he wants things. But at the same time, like yeah, I would suggest a lot of things, and he would just say yes or no. What my goal with what I did with Funeral Mist was to have it kind of interesting all the time because the riffs are kind of repeating and it's long passages with just the same riff, and I just wanted something to happen all the time, so it's like kind of a controlled chaos kind of thing. It's like a lot of surprises, so that was always my yeah, my part of it, what I contributed with, I would say.
Sweet. And whose idea was it to have a drum solo in the middle of the God Supreme? Because that was epic. That's
Yeah,
probably like one of the highlights of the album. Just that song, just the way it flows and moves, and then you've got the drum break in the middle, and it's just like yes.
yeah, it must have been my idea. I can't imagine any other thing, but I mean, yeah, he went along with it, and it was a kind of a fun thing to do, I guess.
No, it's great because I was listening to Early Funeral Mist, just in the lead up to this, and it brought back so many memories because I used to put those two albums just on repeat for ages and ages, um, like when I was like 18 or 19. And here's another story. So my cousin, he's responsible for getting me into extreme music, and I said to him, I said to him one time, "What's the scariest band?" And then he said Funeral Mist. I also noticed like listening to these albums again, the actual approach in songwriting completely changed from Devilry to Salvation. Because like Devilry has lots of quite melodic guitar parts as well. And
Mm.
Salvation has a more kind of um it's a lot more chaotic. It seems like all of the songs are more kind of it's almost like they're less thought out in a way, but I know that's a horrible way of explaining it, but it's like there's more kind of emphasis on feeling and atmosphere in the writing in Salvation. So what do you think changed, and what exactly changed between like the writing styles between those two albums?
Nothing really, as far as I'm concerned. It was more of a continuation. I guess like production wise, it I mean it sounds very different. It has a much bigger sound where Devilry has a much more direct sound, kind of. Uh, but yes, songwriting wise, I can't really think there was any. It wasn't on purpose, at least.
Mhm.
So I actually never thought about it.
Okay.
But one thing I can say, because with Devilry, as I said, it had some old songs, and especially the song "Funeral Mist" is from the first demo, and that one is very melodious, and that's kind of how, I don't know if you've heard the first demo, but that's how that whole demo sounds like. It's much more like Emperor style with the
Mm.
keyboards and everything. So it kind of had a bit left of the old stuff. Uh, but Salvation just moved moved on completely.
Yeah, and what was the drum kit that you used on both releases?
On Devilry, I used Thomas Wingstar, which is my the first kit that I bought, um, which I still have actually. And for Salvation, I had Tama Rockstar DX. So it's like a little bit of an upgrade, but that's still a kind of a low tier kind of kit. Still have that one also, but both of those are just sitting on shelves in the basement.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, I can say like everything back then was also kind of, because now I focus so much on like have which drum kit to use, which heads to put on, which snare drum, cymbals, and everything. Back then, everything was just like, this is what I have and this is what I use. All the cymbals I had, that's what I used. It was just a weird mix of different kinds of cymbals. The drum heads were probably a bit worn, and so yeah, it was just a very different kind of thing.
What made you want to dive more into production in the first place?
Um, I yes, I don't really know. I think one thing was because I did a little bit of experimenting with uh, kind of bouncing things. Yeah, yeah, I don't know what to call it, but I would record stuff on a tape recorder, then I would play on that tape recorder, record another one, and just play along with that. So it was like bouncing back and forth. So this idea of like putting uh, multiple takes together was something it, did- that like just interested me early on, and when I was around, I don't know, 14, 15, maybe something like that, I bought this 4-track cassette Porta Studio. Uh, so then I had the 4 tracks, and I just used that for to its maximum. Um, I worked out a way to like how to get the drums kind of like I could do it on 3 channels, just bounce it down to 1 channel, and then just bounce things back and forth. So that's what I was doing for the early demos. The the 2 Funeral Mist demos are recorded on that. Bunch of this early demo stuff. It's that. Eventually, I inherited a bit of money, and I decided to buy a 16 channel tape deck. I bought a bigger mixing desk, and from there I just expanded. Uh, so yeah, what made me want to get into it, I guess, is just like the idea of just layering different sounds, I think, and then of course like having multiple channels to record and you can manipulate it later. So it's yeah, always something that uh, interested me.
Okay, epic, epic. And when it comes to the like some of the samples used in Salvation, what are some of them from? Because I know you've got like it sounds like some Latin singing, and then you've got like dogs barking as well. You've got like whip cracking noises and all these choirs and stuff. Like, what was first of all, what are they, and what was the and whose idea was it to come up with all these effects and extra sounds?
In Salvation, most of it is from the Seventh Seal, or in Swedish, the Sjunde Inseglet. It's a Bergman movie, so that's definitely something you should check out if you haven't seen it. Uh, it also kind of the story in a way goes a little bit together with Salvation, I would say. Um, there were other samples. We did some. You had this glass breaking, for example, in Devilry, and
Hmm.
at some point that was just us throwing bottles against the wall. There's some weird noises, which was I was using a pitch shifter, just took a microphone and shoved it into the speaker cones. It's like pitch shifted feedback.
Hmm.
We let's see, is it on Devilry where we have this clanking in the beginning? That's the door to the old studio. It's like air raid shelter door, just thick, heavy metal door. So some of it is practical, some of it is from movies. As I said, in Salvation, a lot of it is from the Seventh Seal. And whose idea? That was completely Ariok's idea.
Oh, cool.
I didn't really have anything to do with that, apart from the practical stuff, of course.
Hmm. No, I love that. I love the creativity as well. I love that. And talking about your drumming quickly on Salvation, it's on the third song, Holy Poison. Now it goes back to what you're saying about keeping things moving, but at the end of the song, there's like one snare hit, and then once you repeat the riff, you got da, da, and you keep repeating that fill with extra snare hits. Like, what was the idea and inspiration behind that? Because I thought that was genius.
Yeah, I really like the part myself also. It really confused Ariok. I remember when he put the guitars on it in the studio, I had to sit there and count for him in the control room because he just got confused. Uh, but I mean, it's just the matter of shifting everything forward one more beat every round. Um, how did I think about it? It was just something that came up. I can't remember, but it was really typically the kind of thing that I was doing at the time, just shifting things around. You'll hear also some fills that instead of coming at the end of the beat and then going on with the downbeat, I do the fill at the beginning of the bar instead. So like yeah, just moving things, shifting things around.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so cool. And do you play much drums now?
No, I I have this idea that I'm going to at some point I'm going to just sit down and play drums. It's just that I'm doing so much stuff. Uh, and when I have, let's say that I have like spare time for something, I don't want to be creative in that way, or I don't know what to say. Like I pick it up now and then. I play a little bit. It's just that it's very frustrating because I have to kind of start from scratch all the time. So I mean, if you haven't played for a while and then you just sit down and start playing, you feel like a beginner. And to just like get over that hump, like maybe I have to be active for like 2 weeks or something, and play like every day. I don't have that determination. That being said, I like last year, for example, I picked up a bit of the jazz drumming that I was doing way back when, and so I just wanted to. I wanted to get a bit better at what or just like build on what I had been doing before. So I do things like that. I do the same with piano. I do the same with guitar. It's like if I want to do something, just practice something, I'll just pick it up. And jazz drumming, of course, it's not such an aerobics kind of thing. So it's something you can just like sit down and play with feeling instead of playing with the muscle.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I never managed to do anything regularly, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame because yeah, I just really like your drumming and going back to what you said about muscle, like how hard were you hitting in Salvation and Devilry? Because it sounds like you're really bashing the fuck out of the kits.
Yeah, yeah, I was, but here's the thing: I never thought about it until it was kind of pointed out to me. I there's one thing because I was always paying attention and listening a lot to how the kits sounded in the room. You know, if you didn't hear the kicks, which is a pretty common thing, like people don't play very hard with the kicks. If you didn't hear the kicks, I would just like stomp harder. And it's also like, as I said, with like how the drums sound in the room, you can hit them hard, but you also have to hit them with good technique. If you just like hitting really hard, you're just choking the drums. But like to get the snap and everything, uh, I guess it was just something like because I was also practicing by myself a lot, or just playing songs and just playing by myself, and so I was really just paying attention to how the drums sounded, and I wanted it to come through while I was playing with others.
Yeah, for sure, because that's one thing that I really noticed now was like the purity of the actual sound as well. Like, um, it doesn't sound like there were any triggers.
Yeah, not on Devilry because I didn't have anything. Like it was something that I always wanted because
Hmm.
like with the old death metal stuff that I listened to, it was always like yeah, kick triggers especially. Salvation, I think there's probably kick trigger there. Maybe the snare, I can't remember. Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's only the kick.
Mm. Yeah, because like after listening to it, it does not sound like the snare was triggered at all because you can hear like when you hit a snare in a certain room and it kind of feels like the air's kind of like moving and expanding like you can kind of hear that in Salvation as well, and I think it's great like how you just wanted to get like that pure sound as well. Like going back to what you mentioned before about like specific kits and cymbals now. Like for the drummers watching this, like what kits do you prefer and what cymbals and snares do you tend to go for these days?
If you want just to have something where you can be sure that it's going to sound great, Yamaha 9000 recording is all it always sounds amazing. Different kinds of tuning and everything. It always sounds great. That being said, I have a bunch of other drum kits as well. I have a couple of Sonar kits that are really nice, like the old Sonar Phonic Plus with this really deep toms. So that one sounds great when you want that kind of sound. When it comes to snare drums, I have a bunch by now. I think it's probably like 17, 18 snare drums. I would say like with snare drums, that's like 90% of the drum sound really. Um, because I mean the kicks they sound like they do when you usually you trigger a lot anyway, and the toms. I mean, how much do you hear of the toms? So I've been focusing a lot on like different kinds of snare drums, and that depends so much on the style. It depends on the personality of the drummer, the kind of the sound that fits with the music and that works with that drummer. So it's very hard to give any specific uh, pointers on that. But the Ludwig Black Beauty is always a great choice. It's very expensive. There are other brass snare drums that are really good as well. But if you got the money, then one of those is always good to have. Supraphonic, also Ludwig snare. Well, they're really great aluminium, I believe it is. Um, so yeah, but I would say like if I could only have two snare drums, I would probably pick those.
Awesome. And what about cymbals?
I've always been a Zildjian guy. Um, the A customs work really well with recordings. They're not too they're not too loud. They're not too intrusive. They're not too piercing. If you choke them, they they get uh, quiet right away instead of having a bunch of ringing. So they're really like really good bread and butter kind of cymbals. Uh, but I also like, for example, with Hellhammer uses pasty roots, which are really thick. And the way he plays them, because it doesn't hit the cymbals very hard, so it just works perfectly for him. I think with others, like if someone is really like bashing the cymbals, it doesn't really work. So it depends a bit on drummer, but a custom is usually kind of foolproof.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, since you mentioned Hellhomer, I was at the Mayhem show in Seoul, South Korea earlier this year. So
Aha.
yeah, I no, I used to live there. That's why I just came back to the UK a few months ago, and that kind of leads me nicely on something I wanted to talk about as well. Like when it comes to the live sound. What's your approach for the live sound when it comes to working with both Mayhem and Vertain? Like, what's the most important thing as a sound engineer that you need to keep in mind, and how do you approach it?
It there are some kind of standard things like you need to get rid of mud. Uh, but I also work very much with taming the high mid range. I always want to, like, even if it's really loud, I want you to be able to be in the audience without headphones and without having your ears ringing when you get out of there. And I've found that the high mid range is just killing your ears when it gets too loud. So that's really my go-to. I always cut a lot of high mids. Um, but apart from that, I I go very much in detail when I set up the main system sound. I I do so much processing is ridiculous, really. Same with the guitars, because the guitars are such a big part of the sound, and if the guitars sound like crap, then everything will sound like crap. I mean, drums, it's not. it's not rocket science to mix it, but with guitars, it has to be perfect. So I focus a lot on that. I do a lot of processing. A lot of people would probably say it's too much, but it works. So um, yeah, that's really the key thing. To, get some control of the high mids, mid range in general, but high mids especially, and get the guitars to sit so you can play them loud without being annoying. So yeah, everything else is just like extras surrounding it.
Okay. So what kind of guitar processing do you do then?
A bunch of EQ.
Okay, sure, sure. And what's your favorite guitar amps to use both live and studio?
Mm, uh, the 5150 or 6505 always works really well. It's easy to get a good sound with. So that's something that we work with it a lot live, and it just always works. I really like the JCM 800, the old 2203 model. So I use that a lot. Uh, what else? I mean, I have a bunch of amplifiers, but it's those two that I use the most. Sometimes a dual rectifier if I want something a little bit more kind of washy sound. It's a little bit kind of distant. Um, there's also, I mean, it's especially with the JCM 800, which pedal you put in front of it will have a huge impact. Much less so with the like 5150 is just like more high gain in itself.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I could mention for clean guitars, I like to use uh, Fender. Um, which one is it? Jesus. Uh, yes, Fender amp, dual reverb or something.
Oh yeah, the deluxe
Uh,
thing.
yeah, yeah. Also the JC 120 is great for clean guitars. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I use the most. But for live situations, like 9 times out of 10, we go for 6505. Uh, for the Mysterious tour, we use JCM 800 because it's just more true to what was used on that recording. I should really also mention cabinets because I think cabinets have a much bigger impact on the sound than than the amplifier. So it's very important to use something that works with the sound you're going for. Uh, if you're generally if you play like tune down a lot, then you can use brighter cabs, but if you play like standard tuning, you have to have something that kind of dulls the high range a bit. So cabinets are super important.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that entirely because I recently got a Marshall Mode 4 cab. That's this one here, the MF400. Have you tried one of these?
No.
Okay, epic sound, really, really cool mid-range, really like more, just more like a punch in the face. Because this one here, the Black Star, that's got I think it's got V30 speakers in there, and it's got that kind of um, it's definitely a lot brighter. You can tell like there's more of the mid-range taken out in the EQ, and yeah, that's one thing I really, really noticed because I really love how like there's some amps that I've put through the Black Star and the Black Star cab, and they sound great, and then when I put them through the Marshall, they sound completely different, and it's got that kind of
Mm.
like it's kind of got that kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but you know that part of the low end and the bass where it's a bit loose and like woofy and it's not super super tight, but that happens as well. But I don't know, like I'm using a JVM a lot at the moment. I love this thing, and I'm running it through the
Yeah,
Marshall.
it's a 410, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I have one right here next to me.
Epic. Yeah, one of my favorite amps. And I used
Yeah,
to use,
yeah, they're great.
it's interesting because when I play with 6505s, it's like it's like how you said they always sound quite good mic'd, but for me in the room, I really don't like how they sound when I play through them anyway. It's just curious.
They have a very pronounced mid-range. I like to call it nose, kind of a nasal sound. So I think for like this kind of technical and chugging kind of stuff where you want to hear every little detail, it's great. Uh, if that's not what you're going for, it's a bit uncomfortable,
Yeah,
I
I know.
think.
I think that's what it is because when it comes to my guitar sound, I still want it to be precise, but I like that kind of rawness and a kind of I don't know, a more of a darkness that you get more from a Marshall or an Engel than instead of the PV, if you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah, I know. The Marshalls, especially, they have a kind of a high range, or just like a crisp
Hmm.
that you definitely don't get from the PVs. It's more of a loose sound, also with the Messas, very much with the Messas. Um, so it's kind of I I did a lot of stuff with 5150 and the V30 cabs, and I was just going in that direction because everyone else was doing that. So I kind of just jumped the bandwagon. But then eventually, like I just flipped like 180 and I started using Marshalls. I really like to use just the standard 1960 cabinets with is it T1275. I can't remember what they call, but like 75-watt speakers, just the standard stuff. It's this old school kind of sound that I really like. So if you look at cabinets nowadays, 90% of them have V30s, which I think is completely mm, it's moronic. Uh, so yeah, but it's the speaker that you hear on everything, unfortunately.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I found that as well. I find that as well. I kind of like how this one has got that. I like that how this cab does not have V30s in it because it's just different. It's more the case of like finding your own sound in a way, which leads me on to a nice an interesting topic, which is when you're approached by bands and then they're saying they kind of want their band to sound in this way, like in a certain way. How do you go about that as a producer? Because where is that balance for you between what the band wants, whereas what the producer wants, or more the kind of how do you help a band achieve the sound in their head?
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is it's a very important topic, and this is something that I try to focus on a lot because you want the band to have their own personality. Uh, I like to take this example with like back in the days, if you put on Carcass, you heard that it was Carcass. If you put on Bolt Thrower, it was like unmistakable. You put on Morbid Angel or these, it was like everything was just you could hear which band it was, and its production has gone so far away from that. It's just silly. The it's I mean, everything sounds great, everything sounds amazing, everything is put in place, but that's also the problem. So you edit everything to death, and you use the same boring guitar sound and the same drum sound, same drum samples, whatever, on everything. So just like it's so much of the personality that is gone. So that's my first thing. The first thing I go to and just try to find the personality of the band. It's not super easy. A lot of times they don't really have any kind of background in just in like a sound picture. So there's nothing to go on. But I like to, if let's say, I mean, if it sounds like something, some old stuff, if it sounds a bit like, what example could I take? Emperor, whatever. It's like if it sounds a bit like that, I would probably go a bit in that direction. Um, so yeah, I look a lot in the rear view mirror, and I have my ideas of how certain styles of music should sound, and that's kind of my starting point. Um, of course, I also I mean I only have my set of ears, so it's very hard, you know, when you start tweaking guitars, especially in like I start hearing like certain frequencies that are jumping out, so to like start cutting that, so it starts like molding into kind of my sound or something like that, which I never like, but it's just something you can't get away from. But I really always try to give the band their personality. And I mean, if a band comes to me and they really like Watain and they want to go for something similar, who am I to say like we're gonna do something completely different? That would just be dumb.
No, I get you. I get you. No, that makes sense. And I think that's it's interesting that you mentioned about like looking into the past as well, because after talking to Nocturno Culto, he was saying it's interesting because his take on everything, you know, things were becoming too sterile, and and it's interesting that you said that as well, about like looking back into the past, making things a bit more analog and organic, and making things have their own personality as well. I know, just very interesting parallel as well, and it's something that I've been thinking about a while as well. And going back to what you said, how everything just has to be like perfect, clean, perfect polish. You need to hear this, going to this sound and this samples and
Exactly, because it's a lot of I fell into that trap as well uh, when I switched from working with tape and working with desks, and then like just started doing things in the computer. And uh, I mean I was along for that whole development. If you go into it nowadays as a recording engineer, producer, whatever, you have all these tools. It's amazing. Like you have everything at your fingertips, but but that whole progress of always trying to always being limited by the equipment that you had, and then starting to use the computer, and then you had the possibility to do this all this manipulation, and I just started doing that like crazy. Uh, and eventually I just had to pull the emergency brake because it was just, yeah, you're just killing the music. Um, so it's a lot of like, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And it's so easy to fall into that. Once you start like editing drums, yeah, well, this one is tiny a little bit out, so like you start moving that out, but then I have to move that. Okay, now this part is perfect. Now I have to do that. So like you just chop everything up. So like, what was the point with having a drummer then anyway? So it's super easy to fall into that kind of philosophy, and yeah, it's something that you have to try to find some kind of balance for.
yeah, for sure, because it's so easy to just copy and paste and change things, and kind of take some of the heart out of the music as well. Some of that kind of that natural inconsistency. Like you can still make like a drum part or a guitar part tight as hell in like the raw take, but if you're just like moving everything too much, you just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I mean, when I was starting out, yeah, you could like punch in and stuff, but the more you did it, the more you degraded the sound. Like you're just recording over and over on tape, and sometimes you might get a glitch or whatever. So it's way too easy nowadays. And also like working with ADATs, if you wanted to like redo a part, and uh, you had to rewind them and then wait for them to sync up and then press play, and then it took another 2 seconds for them to sync up the play. So like all that stuff is just making it so that you didn't want to do too much of just a bunch of takes of everything, but or a bunch of correction. But the way it is now, it's too fast, it's too easy, so people just fall for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I get you. And going back to recording, like, what was your most challenging recording session for yourself, and also working with another band?
Well, I'm not going to say anything about like bands that were difficult to work with because I don't like to talk about it. But uh, musically, like one of the bands that it was a challenge, but it's also been very interesting every time I worked with them. It's Inferno,
Mhm.
uh, because they have kind of the skeleton of the music, which is kind of like what they jump on first, but then there's all these layers and all these little details, and you have to kind of try to get all of that to play together. So I what did I do like 2 albums for them, I think 2 or 3. I think it's 2. Um, it's been very interesting and very challenging to work with them. So yeah, it's that's probably it.
Hmm.
The more layers, the more difficult, basically.
Oh, I see, I see. And what about for yourself, like when you were recording? Like, let's say the most challenging drum recording you've had to do yourself.
Uh, Back when I was doing Funeral Mist, it was a lot of it was a workout. Like I had to get through that whole fast part. If you look at drummers, like the new school drummers, they're just sitting there like completely relaxed and just like fiddling with the drums. But I was when I was playing, it was really like just pushing the limits. I never really liked it actually. I got a bit bored and like in uh when was this? Like mid 90s, like everything just started getting faster and faster and faster, and then it got like ridiculously fast. And I couldn't keep up with it, so I lost interest in that. Um, so that was challenging in a physical way. Um, Other things like uh, I, I can't really remember what I've done really, but like one of the last things that I did was the Offer Mode album that never came out. That one I just kind of pushed myself when it came to the playing and just trying to perfect that. There's kind of a precursor to that on an album with a band called Heresy, uh, where I'm not listed as the drummer because I thought the guy was a little bit weird, so I didn't want to be associated with him. But I played on uh, I think they released 2 albums and I played on both of them. And on the second one, I really like the drumming of that. That album is impossible to find, so don't even bother.
Going back to live experiences, what was it like being the live bassist for Vertain back in the day?
Um, it was it was a good experience because I had never been outside I'd never played outside of Sweden, and what few live shows I had done was with my first band, this death metal band that I was in, and when we played with Funeral Mist, we didn't do any live shows, so I hadn't been out much, and yeah, it was just like uh, doing some things that I had always wanted to do: get out on the road, do some shows, and like a bunch of different places, do a bit of touring. So yeah, I think that was the biggest reward for me when it came to that.
Okay, sweet. And then, of course, that must have led to your well, your many years working with Vertain.
Actually, no, it's the other way around. So I started working with them. So I recorded their 7-inch was the first thing I did with them.
Uh-huh.
Then we recorded Rabbit Death's Curse, and after that, I was out for them as bass player.
How's it been working with the band for what, 2 decades? More than that?
Yeah, it's something that it feels very natural, but when I think about how much time that we have spent together, and that it's basically what big part of my life it is. It's basically my entire adult life so far. Um, then that's a pretty massive thing, really.
Yeah, and how's it been like watching the band change and develop and grow over the years?
Uh, Great. It's what I always wanted for them. It's they were very rough around the edges in the beginning, and it's just been a bit development. But it's also been something that for me, okay, I do have a bit of a um, uh, musical education background, which I don't think any of them have it. So I have a bit of that from the start, but we've been developing together a lot, and it's always been great to work with them because when it comes to what to do in the studio, where to go, like sound wise, we're they're very open to what I have to say or what I will suggest, but we tend to have very similar ideas also. Like when I start hearing the demos, I start getting a picture in my head of how it's going to sound, and there's never been any argument about it. So it's really very much been like a coexistence thing.
Okay, yeah, great, awesome, man. And what's your favorite Vartain album then?
The last one.
I've forgotten the name of it. I've forgotten the name of it. Agony and Ecstasy?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. And why this one?
I guess it's okay. So first of all, we recorded it here in this place, which I really like. I don't know if you know the development of the studio, but this is basically well, you could say the third like professional studio, but it's really the fourth. But here everything is just built exactly the way I want. Uh, I I didn't skimp on anything. I just went like all in. Uh, the studio is designed by this famous Swedish designer, so it's like control room sounds amazing, and so it's a very nice place to work. If you compare with the old stuff, like recording in basements and just sitting like in the darkness uh, all day and all night, it kind of wears you out. So here it's been very different. Also, I really like the approach that they had and that we had, that they were all playing together. So they were all in the hall playing, and we tracked that. We didn't use all of it, like the bass parts, guitar parts. We did brush up some things, but that's basically how we did the drums. So the whole thing is very organic. We didn't use any click tracks, nothing like that. And they had rehearsed so much. They were super tight when they got here, and then we just kind of refined it from there. So it that was a really good experience.
And going back to when you're working with bands, what makes a band good to work with in the studio? And for all the people who have never had like the experience working in a studio, what do you, or even working in studios or working with producers and recording in studios, what do you recommend for all these people?
They have to be prepared. I think that's always the biggest mistake that people make when before they go to the studio, when they come to the studio, then they're not prepared enough. And I'm not saying like you have to work out every little detail of every song, but you have to rehearse a lot. You have to you have to play like it's just running water. It's so depressing to do 500 guitar takes just because like you can't nail this tiny little part. It's so unproductive. Uh, so that's definitely the biggest part of it.
For sure, because the biggest enemy in the studio is time.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I guess it's also because and this is a thing that I never get, but you know, you have this thing with studio nerves. So I know like people come here and they just play at maybe like 70% of their capacity just because they're nervous. So that's also a thing to try to not really think about it as something that I mean it's not a sports event, and just try to feel creative and relaxed in the studio. I think that's a very important thing as well.
Yeah, because it's like you said, not only do you need people to be prepared, people need to actually feel the music and have these really, really more emotion in the takes, I guess. And then that can create a much better result because if it's just like, because you can completely tell like when a guitarist is playing versus when they're playing, and the same thing with a drummer and a bass player and stuff. And I think stuff like that really, really, it does affect the final performance and the final take.
But one thing I can say about that is also when you rehearse, the object is not just to go through the songs, it's to identify the problems and correct them. And people miss this so much. Like there might be some part that you just can't nail, and you might be able to do it in the studio. Like I said, after like 50 takes, maybe you nail it. Don't do that. Like practice that like crazy. Practice that part for like a day or two, and then you have it. So breaking things down, if it's drum parts, especially like take the tempo down, play that until it's like until you really nail it. Just take the tempo up, and actually, it's for all instruments really.
Hmm.
So things like that, super important. Also, don't don't play just like really loud in the rehearsal place, so you can't really, it's like all mistakes are just kind of washed out. Focus on what you're doing. It's really good to do pre-production demos. Uh, Also that bands send to me because then I can listen to it and I can identify, okay, the guitar player is a little bit like sloppy on this part. So uh, things like that. That's also like part of preparation, really. But really focus on what you're playing and how it sounds.
For sure, and it really comes to show like the best. It must be like the best type of bands to work with are the ones that are prepared, know their shit, they have the vision, and they're able to play.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, that's also the last thing you said. If I mean, there are some people that come into the studio that just nail their parts, and then when that happens, then you can just focus on maybe like getting a different groove or something like that, rather than just getting someone to not play it wrong. So it is really great when it's like someone who's like very skilled musician, obviously.
Mm, for sure. And when it comes to some other bands you've worked with, who have been your favorites?
Um, well, I have to say Batain because it's such an involved experience all the time. Um, Other bands, yeah, Inferno, as I mentioned. Valkyria has been good to work with. I can't remember what I've done.
Okay.
It's yeah. Uh,
All right,
I've,
gotcha.
I've I've worked with so many bands. There are so many bands that were great to work with. I just can't remember right now. If I had the list in front of me, I could pick a bunch.
Okay, sure.
Adore
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And how did you get working with Mayhem?
Um, we okay. So, Vatain were doing a tour in Australia, and it was I think it was co-headliner or Mayhem were headlining, but I think it was co-headline. And I was asked if I could do sound for Mayhem as well. And yeah, I thought it sounded interesting, so I went with that. And they seemed happy. We came back home. I asked their tour manager at the time, like if they had anything more coming up, and they had a European tour like a month later. So I signed up for that as well, and then it just went on from there. I After that, with some exceptions, I've done everything with Mayhem, all live shows.
How was the process working on Demon, their most recent album?
What we did do, because for me, Mayhem is a lot about the drums and the vocals. So that was my main focus, really. And being a drummer, of course, it's even easier to be able to do that. And also, I know what Hellhammer is capable of. I know what kind of style of his drumming that I like. So I was pushing a lot with pushing a lot in that direction. I was giving him references that we both know. So the drums was really a development. The vocals as well. Um, I think with Attila, when he doesn't get enough direction, he might be doing it in a little bit kind of just straightforward way. But the same thing there. I know what he's capable of. I know what he's done in the past. So I would just be referencing and giving him like a picture to have in his mind. And for the drums, the two guitar players were here, but the for the vocals, it was only me and Attila. So that was also a very cool experience. Just have him here in the church hall, just belching it out.
All right.
It was amazing. Yeah.
So, cool. So your studio now is in a church because that's one thing I wanted to dive in is just dive in more on was like the story behind Necromorbus Studio because I remember how you mentioned this is like technically the fourth variation. So what's the story?
I did as so many others. I just started out in well, it wasn't in my parents' basement because there was no basement, but I had my studio there. My dad was, or my parents were super supportive, but my dad helped me like build the the rooms and a little bit of like improvised acoustic treatment and stuff like that. So that's where I started doing stuff, and that was with the 4-track Porta studio. Um, then I got that 16 channel setup. Did that at home for like a couple of months, but then I was like, okay, this just is too much. Like I need a proper place. So I managed to find a place again through my dad, and he helped me like build the that studio. It was an old bomb shelter, so it was pretty limited in what you could do. Like there were walls that you couldn't uh, take down. So we kind of had to build it to fit in with the layout of of the place. Um, I had the control room that was way too small and way too warm. So eventually, I don't know, we were there for probably like actually for how many years? Uh, it's not important, but it was for a bunch of years, and a lot of this early stuff, of course, is recorded there. Eventually lost the contract. Managed to find another place. It was a little bit more of an open space, so it was possible to make like a bigger control room and have a bit more space in general. Um, so yeah, the place was pretty nice, but it was still like everything that was built there was just me basically improvising and trying to come up with solutions for acoustic treatment and so on, and just experimenting. And I the thing is, I always had this wish that eventually I would, because I was always renting. So eventually I wanted to buy my own place. I wanted to just build a studio the way I wanted, uh, and yeah, without compromise. So that's exactly what I did here. Uh, we bought this place, which was just kind of a skeleton of a house, and it has such a potential. This house, it was messed up when we got it, but and this is like a lifelong project, and just like fixing things, and it's not only like I'm sitting here in the control room. It's just like the first thing that was finished for the studio. Uh, I have a booth here next to me, but and that one's almost finished at this point. But the hall is kind of like how it how it was. I've started to do some stuff. I have I have plans. I have plans for the lounge. I have plans for the kitchen. It's all these things, but it's still fully functional. Everybody who's been here really love it. It's such a different atmosphere. It's in the countryside. I'm just so tired of being in the city, and that stuff. It's just so calm out here. So this, yeah, this is kind of the. I guess this is the last step, really.
Fuck yeah, you bought a church and turned it into a studio. That's epic. Do you have any final thoughts to share to anyone who's looking to start bands and start recording with bands, or even advice for drummers and how to improve? Do you have any final thoughts or any final comments?
Yeah, you need to practice a lot. Uh, don't just rush through things. Break it down. Uh, learn it properly. Um, do things at the slow tempo, just gradually take it up. I see this people making this mistake over and over and over. So that's like if you're starting as a musician, it's super important. Uh, learn a bit of music theory. Uh, many people think about, or people who kind of don't want to do it, think about it as that it's going to limit you in a way. That's not the point. The point is to basically learn a language, I would say, and then be able to communicate with other musicians. That is something that it's. I mean, when I have to sit here in the studio, I say like play an A, and then I have to point it out on the guitar, like play here, this fret. It's very annoying. Learn a bit of music theory, know your instrument, and yeah, practice, practice, practice.